Hi guys, I'm Jamie from Back of the Internet, as always, your humble and gracious host. And today we're doing a Back of the Internet special where I want to look at Manchester United, how we perceive the team, media, social media, and why I think it affects certain players. This comes off the back of Jesse Lingard's proposed move to West Ham on loan, leaving Manchester United. Jesse Lingard's been a servant in the club for a very, very long time, but I don't think it's any secret that Jesse's been struggling recently with his own personal life as well as his footballing career. This is called for a lot of Manchester United fans to ask Jesse to go, to leave, to bombard his social media with some horrendous messages, to be honest, from when I was having a look through Twitter, but also a lot of support. Once upon a time, you can get close to your heroes. Now your heroes are literally at the end of your fingertips. So looking at Manchester United in a bubble, let's start with our talisman, Bruno. Now Bruno Fernandes seems to gain quite a lot of positive comments on the internet. However, rival fans will tell you that it's Bruno penalties, that he only scores penalties and are often on his social media to tell him either via Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, hashtags, that Bruno is a cheat, that Bruno dives, anything to get under Bruno's skin. Bruno, on the other hand, will post positive messages to his teammates, such as Fred, who will big up after a decent performance. Donny van de Beek is another player that has come to Manchester United that is currently under the spotlight. Now, Donny is struggling to get into the Manchester United team. He's not the first player that's ever struggled to get into the Man United team, and he definitely will not be the last. At the moment, the Man United midfield is absolutely jam-packed with players that want to play. Bruno wants to be there. Pogba wants to be there. Fred and McTominay seem to have a partnership when we need them in big defensive games. And then you've got Donny, who, I must admit, even we did a show saying the problem with Van der Beek. Now, looking at it, again, in a bubble, you have a look on social media and it's calls for Donny to leave Manchester United. What is Donny doing? What is Ole doing? In the last game against Liverpool, Manchester United fans have been calling for Van der Beek to start. The social media outcry afterwards was Donny wasn't good enough for this Manchester United team. Everybody's too quick to get their opinions across on social media platforms. Whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on Facebook. It seems to be mainly on Twitter. But there was a lot of stuff trending for Donny and Donny's performance. Now, YouTube channels like this don't help as well because we're very quick to call out players on their performance. There's a difference between being critical and being downright nasty. Luke Shaw's another player that I've picked on in the past. Now, I haven't gone to the extent where I go onto Twitter and I'll say you're a fat twat, get out of the club. However, I will say this on a YouTube video. But again, this is based in critical thinking and critical data when I look at Manchester United in a vacuum. This season, his performances have been a hell of a lot better. He's actually been a great player. After that horrible injury in Europe, his career sort of took a nosedive. Jose didn't trust him. But now look at him. He's playing well, he's doing well, and I want Manchester United to do well. So if Luke Shaw's going to continue to do well, I'm happy for it. So the problem with Donny, where does he fit? Do we have the right to tell Solskjaer what to do with his football team? We're top of the league. Ole seems to be getting a lot of stuff right at the moment. And yes, there are improvements that he needs to make. And yes, game management isn't his strongest suit. But Donny's only just signed for the club. Manchester United are a massive club. We're top of the league. We're working hard on this season. Donny will get his chance. We need to let him have his chance. Social media isn't going to help. Speaking of social media, Paul Pogba. This guy is an absolute magnet for controversy. Anything Paul Pogba puts out has always got a loaded message behind it. Everything Paul Pogba puts out is because his agent has told him to do it. Every time Paul Pogba goes on Instagram, he's playing basketball, yet he's meant to be injured. Paul Pogba doesn't want to be at Manchester United. Paul Pogba, you shit. Paul Pogba, you're an overrated piece of crap. We wouldn't get £20 million for you. Paul Pogba was never a Manchester United player. Sir Alex Ferguson was right. Paul Pogba is one of these players that plays for Manchester United who knows he's extremely talented. Paul Pogba is one of these players at Manchester United that can win Manchester United games and not do anything for 90 minutes. Paul Pogba is seen as a leader. He's a World Cup winner. He stated he wanted to win championships at Manchester United. He was a young lad when we first had him. He fell out with Alex Ferguson. He left. He came back. 4 years on now, Paul Pogba is still at the club. This season could be his best season for Manchester United. Paul Pogba could actually get to the point where we feel that Paul Pogba is worth the money that we paid. So going back to the start and all the negative stuff that I said about Paul Pogba is the sort of stuff you see on social media. This sort of stuff is on Paul Pogba's page. This sort of stuff is on Paul Pogba's fan pages. This sort of stuff is on Manchester United fan pages. This sort of stuff is on pictures of Paul Pogba after he scored. You expect this sort of shit from rival fans, not Manchester United fans. It's appalling. It's disgusting. And yeah, there are people out there that aren't Paul Pogba's biggest fan. But you know what? While he's playing well for the club, we need to get behind him and support him. And if he wants to move from the club afterwards, that's fine. Then we can all look at it critically and say, do you know what? Paul Pogba probably wasn't worth the money that we paid for him. He probably wasn't worth the trouble that he caused. But let's be honest, how much trouble did Paul Pogba cause? Because it seems that all the bad apples, all the players that were upsetting the balance in the Manchester United club, Ollie actually got rid of. Paul was one of them that stayed. So maybe it's the media's narrative that is wrong. And the fans have bought into this. And Paul Pogba isn't actually the biggest villain at Manchester United. There were bigger villains. Let's not forget Sanchez coming for an absolute wedge and doing absolutely fuck all at Manchester United. So maybe Paul's not the problem. But going on social media and telling Paul he is the problem is going to have an effect on the player. Mason Greenwood, one of our young up-and-coming talents. Fantastic player. I think he's an absolute natural. And I'm hoping Mason, if he can get his head right off the pitch and concentrate on the pitch, will be an absolute talent going forward. He's a young lad who just broke into the Manchester United squad last season. He gets absolutely pelted. He's another young talent that has graduated through Manchester United's ranks. And occasionally gets his chance. And no, he doesn't always score. But like we saw against Liverpool recently, his movement was great. If a little bit selfish at times that frustrated Cavani. His ability to strike a ball and find space is deadly. And this has helped Manchester United out massively, especially last season where we had a hole and we needed to fill it. Mason stepped up and did his job. He's a young kid. And while it's easy to hype him, it's also easy to tear him down, as we've seen with so many English players. If it hasn't been Sterling, it's been Dele Alli. If it's not been Dele Alli, it's been Rashford. Even Rashford doing all the good things in England at the moment, he's still criticised and being told he needs to concentrate on his football and not politics. Social media can easily impact all these players. They see it, of course they see it. They might choose to ignore it, but they see it. It impacts their mental health, which in turn impacts their game. Impacts the way they prepare, impacts their application and how they go forward with football. It impacts their impact on the team. It impacts them as a person, because let's not forget, behind all the glitz and glamour and all the money they're being paid and all the prestige and the awards and accolades they're getting, they're still human beings. And this leads me into Jesse Lingard. Now, don't get me wrong, Jesse probably has outgrown Manchester United, or Manchester United probably have outgrown Jesse Lingard. But Jesse Lingard was a fantastic servant for the club at one point. His goals in the FA Cup were absolutely crucial when Man United's silverware cabinet was pretty bare. He wasn't the most explosive player. He wasn't even the best player Manchester United have ever had. He won't go down as a Manchester United legend, although he was given the moniker by myself as Messi Lingard. He wasn't the most stylish player on the ball. He wasn't the most skillful player on the ball. But you know what? He would pop up with really important goals at times. Now, off the field, Jesse Lingard has had a lot of problems. And a lot of these have impacted his mental health, which have impacted his playing time, which has impacted his starting place in the team. And as you can see, at one point, if you go back far enough in time, Jesse was actually one of Manchester United's most important players, believe it or not. Now, Jesse's had some horrible things said to him on the internet, and he probably didn't need it at the time. He's constantly reminded that he's not a Manchester United player anymore, or he's not good enough for Manchester United anymore. He recently did an advertisement for JBL speakers where he was dancing in some sort of floral get-up, and the comments underneath were all, Jesse, you need to concentrate on football. Jesse, what are you doing, you absolute mug? Jesse, it's a shame that you can't play as well as you advertise. These are the sort of things that footballers tend to see, or advertisers may feed back to them. Not exactly word for word, but they may feed back whether it's positive or negative. And if a footballer was to see that, it wouldn't really bode well for their recovery, their progression, their chance to get out of this dark hole that they've currently been in. And there's been a lot of dark holes with footballers, and we've seen it with the likes of Gascoigne and George Bests. Yes, there's more help around, but there's also more pressure around nowadays. There's also more media coverage telling you aren't good enough, highlighting the worst bits and not focusing on the good bits. Now, I know there'll be people watching this and saying, well, footballers get paid all this money. Why do they care? They don't even pay any attention to this. They probably won't even pay attention to your video, Jamie. You're making this for absolutely nobody. Nobody's interested in this video. You only get about 14, 15, 16 views max on each one of your videos. And yeah, while that may be true, at the same time, I don't think anybody's going to bat for these footballers. I don't think anybody's actually going out there and saying, look, we don't pick the team, the manager picks the team. The manager manages the players as a football team, but also as human beings afterwards. These footballers do not need us micromanaging their lives. We do not need to be telling these footballers that they aren't good enough to be at Manchester United if, and I need to state this because I know it will come back to bite me in my ass, if they're not getting the chance or they're putting in performances and it's still not being recognised. If a player genuinely isn't good enough for Manchester United, that's fair enough, that's critical, that's criticism. We can say, look, you're not a Manchester United player. I think it's time to move on. However, we don't need to go on social media and tell people they're shit. We don't need to go on social media and tell them to get the fuck out of our club. Who are we? We are just fans at the end of the day. And as fans, we should be supporting our players and wanting the best for our players. And the fact that I still see Manchester United fans going on social media and giving Manchester United players grief is pretty disgusting. You don't have to go very far to have a look on Twitter to find some real pieces of work that claim they're Manchester United fans when clearly they have agendas against everybody in the football team. So Jesse's going out on loan to West Ham. Jesse, I'd like to say thank you very much for all your time as a Manchester United player. I know you'll be back in some capacity. We'll have to see how you get on to see whether or not you can break back into the Manchester United team. I hope everything is well with you, well with your mental health, well with your family. Good luck on your new venture down to West Ham. To other Manchester United fans out there, I just want to say that at the moment, United are riding high, but the wheels could come off at any time. If they do, it's time to take a deep breath and relax. We never thought we'd be in this position anyway, but I don't think turning on players and turning on the manager is the right thing to do, so I don't want to see Man United fans doing that. If you're doing it from a critical point of view, I'll get behind you. If you're doing it to be nasty, if you're doing it just to be negative, then back in the internet will not support that narrative and we will not support you. We need to support our players. We need to support people as human beings, especially in times like this. I think it's better to be kind rather than to be cruel. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that, especially in social media. Right, anyways, this was Jay from Back in the Internet and a special on the media and mental health, Manchester United. We'll be back tomorrow with a warm-up for Sheffield United versus Manchester United, and then we'll be back for the warm-down after the game as well, where myself and Joe will be back talking about something a little more lighter. As always, I'm Jay. Glory, glory, Man United. On to the next one. Peace.
Oh, he's walking past people! Oh my God! Come on!